Chapter 24, Communicate. Everyone is so excited for Ethan. The family appreciates all the prayers and well wishes, but asks for limited visitations so Ethan can recover. Mr. Duncan asked Teddy to be the liaison between the college students and Ethan. The family wishes are understandable, and all the students oblige their requests. Teddy continues to go to his classes, but often studies over at the hospital. Holly and Teddy needed to meet to finalize their sociology research projects on race. During their meeting, Holly tells Teddy about Adams 12's comment she received from her blog. Teddy also is skeptical about the comment, but curious about it at the same time. Holly suggests if it is real, Mr. Duncan may want to talk to Jake Adams face to face. Teddy agrees and will see what he can do. Ethan's recovery is going well. He is able to leave the ICU after 2 days and is placed in a regular room. The doctors inform the Duncans their son will require some rehabilitation. They emphasize the importance of signing up for a cardiac rehabilitation program. The program monitors blood pressure, heart rate, and heartbeat as Ethan exercises. The rehab can be done closer to the Duncans' hometown, which is great news for Reginald and Daisy. Ethan is expected to be discharged from the hospital in a couple of days. Teddy helps Mr. Duncan find Ethan's professors. Mr. Duncan explains the circumstances of his son Ethan leaving school early. All of the professors are understanding and work out a plan for Ethan to fulfill the course requirements. Teddy is able to verify that the Adams 12 comment did come from Jake Adams by cornering the rookie in the parking lot of the police station. He lets Mr. Duncan know about the comment in Holly's blog. Teddy checks to see if Mr. Duncan would like to meet with the rookie. After thinking about it and reading Holly Woodward's blog, Mr. Duncan agrees. Mr. Duncan insists Holly be there for the meeting. Holly invites Jamal to videotape the meeting after getting permission from Mr. Duncan. The meeting is held in a small conference room at the hospital. Jake Adams has slipped in under a knit hat and bulky scarf. Mr. and Mrs. Duncan, Jake Adams, Holly, and Teddy are seated around the table, while Jamal has set up his video camera in the corner. Jake seems a bit nervous as he sits across from Reginald and Daisy Duncan. I want to apologize to you, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan, as well as your son. I really don't know why I tased him, maybe fear. But I want you to know I resigned yesterday from the department, offers Jake. Mr. Duncan looks at his wife and then says, "We accept your apology." You said you may have tased him out of fear. Why were you fearful of him? Questions Mrs. Duncan directly. In all honesty, I asked myself, if Ethan were white or Asian, would I have suspected he had a weapon in his gym bag? The answer is no. So the ugly truth is simply because he is black. I thought he would be violent and consequently tased him, explains Jake. Mrs. Duncan just stares at Jake for a moment. I appreciate your honesty, as she shakes her head and begins to cry. You know, I never imagined myself here. I thought teaching my son good manners, sending him to great schools, and living in a nice neighborhood would prevent this, but it didn't. And only by the grace of God, I'm not burying my son because of his beautiful brown skin. Mrs. Duncan has to get up and leave. While she is leaving, she tells her husband she will be fine and he needs to stay. I'm so sorry responds Jake in earnest. What do you think the solution is, Jake? What can we do to prevent this? Asked Mr. Duncan. I really don't know. I guess I have to give some credit to Holly's blog for giving me a name to associate with what's happening. Cultural conditioning. Jake glances at Holly for a moment and then quickly returns his focus back to Mr. Duncan. He takes a deep breath and continues. In all fairness, everyone has biases. Some people have biases against the police. I agree, we all have biases. But in most cases, those biases won't cause immediate physical harm which can end someone's life in an instant, explains Mr. Duncan. True. I guess understanding and acknowledging the problem is a place to start, says Jake. Absolutely. That takes honest communication from both parts. I think the project where police and members of the community paint schools and playgrounds in the community are excellent. I know Officer Wolf set a lot of these activities up. Definitely, there needs to be a better training for new rookies as well as older officers. Well, I'm going to follow up with the police department to see how we can prevent this from happening, insists Mr. Duncan. Sounds good. Well, I do appreciate you coming, but I need to get back to my son. Do you think I can apologize to your son? He's not ready for that. Maybe another time. I understand. Mr. Duncan gets up and says goodbye to everyone as he leaves the room. Jake leaves soon after. The three students finish collecting their notebooks and video equipment and head back to campus. On campus, Holly, Teddy, and Jamal put together a vlog showing the communications between the victim's family and the officer, the apology, and some solution. Jamal has some footage from Officer Wolf donating at the fashion show to represent some community service already in effect. The video is well done, and Holly quickly posted on her blog. It went viral in a day and received hundreds of positive comments. In Chapter 24, the Duncans talk with the officer that tased their son Ethan. In the comments below, share your opinion on the importance of communicating. See you in Chapter 25.